Hello, this is Angelique, and you're listening to We're Booked Up, wherein Kendall, Andrew, and I discuss books. For this episode, we'll be discussing Under the Whispering Door by T.J. Klune. There will be spoilers. If you have not read it and want to avoid those, come back after you've read the book. If you have not read the book and still want to listen, I feel I should read TJ's author note as a sort of warning as to the possible contents of this episode. Quote, "This story explores life and love as well as loss and grief. There are discussions of death in different forms. Quiet, unexpected, and death by suicide. Please read with care." Alright, so, what have we been reading or watching?
So I've started listening to Crazy Rich Asians, and it's pretty cute so far. It's a slow go for me because I have to listen to it on a CD in a car, so it just depends on when I'm in Marcus's car, and that's when I can listen. But so far so good. I liked the movie. I'm looking forward to the book. And then what am I watching? I forgot to look up what it was called, but Marcus and I watched the Spike Jonze documentary about the Beastie Boys, where the Beastie Boys are actually up on stage and talking about their life. It was fascinating. I really enjoyed it. And then we are also watching... we've been watching the Kung Fu Panda series. It's pretty cute.
The movie came out, right?
How to Train Your Dragon. That one as well. Also really good.
I like it.
I liked those movies too.
They're cute.
They were actually really well done.
Yeah.
I think the first one was particularly, or second one. Something.
Yeah, I like the first one the most.
And I've been binge watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Oh, I love that show. I love that show. 9-9.
9-9.
I love that show.
Especially, I don't know, after Andre Braugher's passing, I was just like,
that one
I don't
hit.
know. I know
it kind of
right?
happened in like the thick of a lot of like Christmas and all that stuff going on, but I mean that one really hit.
Mm-hmm.
Especially, I mean, Raymond Holt's one of my favorite like TV characters of the last decade. So I
he's
hate
just
that.
the best, and it's just such a well done character.
It is.
He's phenomenal. Anyway, I'm just really enjoying that.
Awesome.
How about you?
So we're reading for book club a book called The Art Thief, and I hear it's very interesting. I have not started it. I read this,
Mm-hmm.
and then we did read Perks of Being a Wallflower. I think I said we were going to read it.
I
That's-
love that book.
I loved it, but I will say, I don't think I would have loved it if I had not read I read like the update edition where, like, I guess when the movie was coming out, he did his final letter, Stephen Chbosky. And he talks about at the end, like, the one question I have the most is whatever happened to Charlie.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, well, in 3 words, it's easy. He made it. And so can you? Because I think up to that point, it's just so hard. So it was nice because one of our book club members did not read that version. And so she was like, okay, I wish I had read that version because to know that it would be okay.
Mm-hmm.
But it was really, really good. And then I finally started this new season. It's not really a season, series of True Detective.
Ghosts. I've also been watching Ghosts.
Ghosts, yeah.
Sorry. Tell me about True Detective
you're good.
because Jodie Foster and I want to watch it.
Yeah, it's I'm only like an episode and a half in, but I love the two paired up. I mean, Jodie Foster's really, she's not much she can't do. It's very well done. I really did not like season 2, or the second anthology. The third one was better, but this one is the one so far. It feels like I'm gonna like it the way I liked the first one with Matthew and Woody, and so I'm looking forward to it. I mean, like I said, Jodie Foster's one of those I'd probably watch her read the phone book. So it's really good. And then I'm trying to think. I watched the Oscars. We did not do our Oscars winner. I did very well, by the way.
Good job.
19 out of 23 or something like that. Not that you all would know because we forgot to record it. But it was cool. That's always fun. And it's really good winners this year. So that made me very happy. But what about you, Angelique?
Let's see. I've been catching up on my anime. Like, the Frieren Beyond Journey's End is really good right now. It's got, like, 2 episodes left, or maybe 1. The second to last has already aired. And then The Apothecary Diaries is just really good. So, the most recent movie I watched was Anaconda. So, I go to a friend's house
Like the
every
one with, like,
Friday.
Owen
and
Wilson, like you see his face in the Anaconda. Okay.
J-Lo.
Yeah, J-Lo, yeah.
J-Lo, Eric Stoltz,
Oh,
John Voight, Ice Cube.
this random cast. I love it. That movie
Is
was
this the one with LL Cool J or is that the shark one?
That's the shark one.
That's the
Just
shark,
kidding.
yeah.
I had a fun fact, but it does not pertain to this. I get all of those, like, 90s animals are attacking because
There
they've
are
been...
a lot of them.
They just blend in my brain.
Yeah.
But anyway, Anaconda.
Yeah.
I remember liking that movie when I was young. I think I saw it in theaters, which is probably not a good thing. Because
Yeah,
I was,
well.
You've been pretty young.
I saw The Patriot when I was like 7, and there's like, a head being blown off by a cannonball. It's fine. You're
So
fine.
my dad used to take us to movies, I
Mhm.
guess to give my mom a break from us. But we would go to the movies that he wanted to see.
How very boomer parenting.
I love it. I love it. Hey, but you found a real really hidden gem there.
So I'm pretty sure I saw like Anaconda in theater. Saw probably Jurassic Park.
That would have been a good one to see in
Yeah.
theaters.
Yeah, I know.
Although scary, because with the dinosaur and the car
Mhm.
scene,
I think
the
I saw-
T-Rex, the dinosaur. Of course, there are dinosaurs in Jurassic Park. Anyway.
I think I saw The Quick and the Dead in the theater.
Oh.
That's a good one. That's a good
Yeah, I haven't
one.
seen that in a long time, but I remember liking it.
Huh?
Yeah.
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 All right. So let us move on to
We're not okay, podcast
I got like
listeners.
4 hours of sleep last night.
I feel like we say that is the disclosure we make every single podcast. We're not okay today. We're tired.
We're tired.
So from this point forward, listeners, just know that we're not okay in any episode that we record. Because we're like adults and we have adult problems or whatever.
Tired of them.
Yeah.
Me too.
All right. So let's move on to the book.
Yes.
Yep, good idea.
that's good.
Let
Yes.
us move on to the book. I'll read the synopsis and then we will rate it, as per usual. Welcome to Cairns Crossing. The tea is hot, the scones are fresh, and the dead are just passing through. When a reaper comes to collect Wallace from his own funeral, Wallace begins to suspect he might be dead. And when Hugo, the owner of a peculiar tea shop, promises to help him cross over, Wallace decides he's definitely dead. But even in death, he's not ready to abandon the life he barely lived. So when Wallace is given 1 week to cross over, he sets about living a lifetime in 7 days. Hilarious, haunting, and kind, Under the Whispering Door is an uplifting story about a life spent at the office and a death spent building a home.
There's a lot. Like, when I read that, I kept waiting. And it did eventually happen.
Yeah.
Like
The
the
week?
7
Yeah,
days.
yeah,
Yeah.
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 But it took it
It is literally on page 277.
right,
Yeah. Like,
right.
wait
So
a-
it's just interesting that the synopsis like cut out a lot in the middle,
Yes.
which is fine because it's a synopsis.
Mhm.
But there was a lot that happened to get to that
I
point.
was beginning to think that the person who wrote the book jacket did not read the book.
I know.
I always wonder who writes those. Do they just hire somebody, or is it like
Probably.
the editor or the agent or something?
have
There's
no
probably
idea.
like a
Yeah,
pseudo writer.
I mean, other than that, it was accurate.
Yeah.
because it was so vague.
And it's still not inaccurate, but you're waiting a long time for that 7 days.
I know.
You're waiting 4 months.
Right.
Wallace is there for 4 months.
Yeah. That's and none of that's in the synopsis. Like
Mm-mm.
300 pages are not in the synopsis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
All right, are we ready to rate it?
Uh-huh.
Who wants to go first?
You go first.
me?
Yeah.
Okay. So for the first 270 pages of this book, it was like a 3.5 for me. It wasn't bad. It was well written, but I just didn't connect with it immediately like I think I did House in the Cerulean Sea. The last 75 pages were a 5, and I bawled like a frickin' baby the whole time. And so and I think I put a 5 on Goodreads just because I literally was like still crying on my phone. It's more like a 4.5 for me. It's still a wonderful book. I just wish that House in Cerulean Sea, and I went back. I think I did a 4 originally. I went back, and that is 100% a 5-star book for me. And I realized how much I stuck with it. And when people ask, I was at a leadership training thing, and they said, "I know this isn't leadership related, but you're a librarian. What's a book you would recommend?" And the first thing that came to my mind was House in Cerulean Sea, because it's just something that I feel like a lot of people can connect to. And so this one, I realized part of it is that book was a lot lighter along the way, a lot more wholesome. This one is hard, but it really sticks the landing. Is my there are 2 characters in particular that for whatever reason hit me really, really hard at the end, and one in a really good way and one in a really sad way. So
Mhm.
yeah, I don't cry at books very often, and that one made me cry. So
I do cry at books, and I'm bold.
yeah,
Yep. Okay, so this for me is a 4-star book.
Okay.
So House in the Cerulean Sea, 5-star book for
Yeah.
me. So it's still the same great writing, still the same great characters. It's just, for me, it got knocked down to a 4.5 at first because it was like the characters weren't quite as endearing as the
Yeah.
kids' school, I think. And there were extremely charming characters in
Mhm.
this book. Like
and well
Nelson.
written.
Yes, extremely, but like the two main characters, I feel like for me didn't get their hooks into me the same way Arthur and Linus did.
Yeah, agree.
So that was like a 4.5. And then it kind of got knocked down again when it was like, I feel like I kept focusing on like, so like even the synopsis, it talks about how like it's an uplifting book and you're going to walk away thinking about like great things. I did not. I walked away with this kind of haunted feeling of like these deep questions. And that was a little hard for me. And I think it went down even a little bit less because I kind of got frustrated by the ending.
Really?
So yes, I'm excited to discuss it with you later.
Okay. Yeah.
Go, Angelique.
Okay. So I think it might, I don't know if it was the book or if it was me, but I just did not vibe with this book. I didn't hate it.
Yeah.
I didn't love it. I didn't not like it, but I'm not really sure that I liked it. So it's more like a 3, maybe a 3.5. So that's where I am.
I did not, like I said, I struggled through a lot of it. And so that's where I was. And for whatever reason, it hit at the end, whatever hit with me. You're right that we will talk about it. Yeah. It's really just two characters that I felt like their stories, for whatever reason, rang emotionally with me. Their endings, not necessarily the ending. So that's a good point to make. But you're right. It didn't. By the way, House in Cerulean Sea, September 10th, the sequel comes out.
Ooh.
Yes.
That's very exciting.
I know. I was looking up his books today and I saw that. So we should definitely add that to our list next year since we love the first one.
Sure.
I really hope it lives up to it. That's the only problem with sequels.
I know, sequels are hard.
But yeah, you're right. It again, I think for me, this one's so much harder. Subject matter so much harder. That one's, you kind of, even though there were twists and turns with House in Cerulean Sea, you kind of felt like where it was going, and the whole, at the end, we're one big happy family. And with this one, you're right. There are a lot of questions out there. And there was a lot of hard stuff. I mean, he admits there's going to be hard stuff.
So I feel like when we talk about this, I'm going to talk about a lot of things. I hope, anyway, I hope that's the direction of the conversation, about all the things that I liked, because I really did like this book and I would recommend it. I forgot where I was going with this. Shocker.
We are not okay and we're tired.
I also. I can't remember. I really honestly can't remember where I was going with that. It'll come back in a second, I think.
You were saying that you would recommend it.
I've definitely liked the book. I hope we focus on the parts that I do like. I just think that there are some areas that I just really I struggled with. The way it's written, it's not like terribly hard. It's not necessarily hard to read. It's not necessarily like too intense. Like none of the dramatic scenes really happen in front of you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, true.
Like a lot of it is like flashback stories or like, but it's the stuff that carried with me that it made me feel so sad on the inside. And I just really struggled.
There are huge, like 20, 30 pages of this book where nothing happens plot-wise. And he leaned a little too heavily. This is where I was lost in some of it. Like House in Cerulean Sea, he'd have these pointed little, could be cheesy, but really they hit moments. There were a lot of speeches.
Angelique noted the speeches in the first book. It's the first thing I thought about when I was like, why do I not love Nelson's speeches? Oh, that's funny. Angelique didn't like the speeches in Cerulean Sea. Anyway.
Those worked for me in a way that sometimes these did not work for me.
Yeah.
And so that's why I say it for a while I was with Angelique on that, where it was just I was not connecting with it.
Like I cried at parts, but like I cry easy anyway. Like somebody tells me they want to have a serious conversation, I start to well up. But it's like a white girl defense mechanism or something. But
well, aren't we peas in a pod? How come I've never seen you cry?
I don't like crying in front of people.
I hate it so much.
I do not like crying in front of people.
I would punch you in the face before I want to cry in front of you.
Good note.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Do not like crying in front
of people. I don't either.
Well, I cried at this book, but I was like, because there's sad things happening, but at the same time, I was like, okay, that's over now.
Okay, moving on. Yeah.
All right. We want to move on to the first question?
Yep, let's do it.
All right. What did you think of Wallace?
He was, to me, a kind of typical grumpy grump who, like, I just watched The Holdovers, and so when I first cast this, and I realize now, like, I picked someone else because I realized age-wise and body size and all that kind of stuff, like Paul Giamatti wouldn't, but it was kind of that, it was that kind of, like, cranky Paul Giamatti, but then he meets these people who break down his exterior and he learns to love. Like that, I don't know, I've seen that character a lot. I mean, he was just kind of should I say this? Okay, he was kind of a butthole. I mean, and then that is one thing. Wallace's journey, I mean, I get how he gets there. I'm not saying TJ Klune doesn't get there, but it does feel like it's way too...
It's too much.
Thank you.
It feels like two different characters.
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
Like the first
Thank you.
chapter, he's such a jerk. But then
so
suddenly in like
mean.
2 chapters later, he's like reconsidering. And I'm like, I don't know how. It wasn't organic, that character growth. It didn't
agree.
happen in a way that there was not enough impetus for him to be suddenly being like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have been like that.
So I feel like, okay, we're going to compare Wallace and Linus right now. So
Yeah, yeah,
Linus, to me, he was a little bit of a fuddy-duddy, but he really had passion and he cared about his job. And you can see, like, he had a relationship, even if it was slightly antagonistic with his neighbor, but he wasn't cruel to her. Like, I could see it there.
Yeah.
Whereas Wallace just straight up fires somebody for, like, something small in the beginning.
2
like,
hours late turning something in.
He's just a jerk face.
And Linus's journey, if you recall, it takes a long
Mhm.
time to break that
But
exterior.
also, you can see it in the beginning where he could be a good person.
good
Like, he
person.
obviously cares about those children. He's
Yes.
just caught up in the bureaucracy of his job.
1,000%.
he thinks the bureaucracy is him caring
Yes.
about that. Yeah.
But
yeah.
Wallace, he is just a jerk.
Mhm.
And I'm sorry, I don't know what Hugo did that was, to me, more May, and really it was Nelson.
Yes.
Nelson was really the ferryman in this, in the sense that he is the reason I think that Wallace the way he was. No offense to Hugo, but all I do is make some tea and make some speeches. I mean, I really don't feel like, I feel like the other two that were supposed to be the side characters were more along that journey. And so that kind of frustrated. Again, you're right. The Linus and Arthur, it just worked. And Hugo and Wallace just didn't quite work as well.
So, like, I feel if he had included in some of more of Wallace's memories or something, or even in the beginning, some of those sparks of, like, I actually am a
Humanity.
human,
Yeah.
and, oh, why are you saying this to me? This is why I did X, Y, or Z when he's at the funeral. Or, flip side, after he has died, some, like, curmudgeonness, some grumpy old man stuff.
Yeah.
Like, needs to still be there. Also, isn't he? I can't figure out his age because in my brain
I
he's
said
like
40s.
old. But then he talked about how Hugo was in his 30s and he was in his 40s or something
Yeah.
like that. So that really
They
threw things
didn't.
off.
That's why I went to like Paul Giamatti, because I
Yeah.
thought of Crumpy Old Man who who finds it. But then I'm like, okay, but then they have like a relation. You don't see that necessarily, and so yeah, it took me a long time to pinpoint exactly. His initial characterization wasn't good. Even in that first conversation with firing her, there's a little throwaway line of like a twinge of guilt
Mhm.
or just something. But it was like, this woman
Nope.
get out of my office. I'm tired of
Yeah.
her. I mean, it was just
Plants
ugh.
suck.
Yeah.
Yes.
There was nothing there to like establish that maybe somewhere deep inside he could change. And even if there wasn't, he should have been a jerk for longer, and there should have been like a bigger like moment where he realizes that maybe he is a jerk and that he shouldn't be acting like that.
That's what I'm saying with Linus. Even
Yeah.
though there were those sparks, it took him a really long time
Yeah.
to break that exterior. I mean, it took like 300 pages to break that
Mhm.
exterior.
Yeah.
So they really played on the fact that he was a hard, tough cookie to crack or whatever. Whereas Wallace, like, we're like 60 pages in and he's trying to change his
He just
clothes.
got-
and-
He's
just got whiny.
apologizing and
Yeah.
yeah.
He just got whiny, honestly.
yeah.
A little
just-
boring.
So I'm not a big Wallace fan.
Yeah, no.
So
he was
maybe
just
that's why we
there.
didn't connect. It's because the
Yeah.
two main characters just weren't. We just didn't connect with them the way we connected
Mhm.
with the two main ones.
Well, see, so we'll move on to the next question. Are we done?
Yeah,
talking
yeah,
about
no,
Wallace?
that's good.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll move on. Who was your favorite character, your least favorite character?
So Nelson was my favorite.
Okay.
So Nelson was definitely my favorite, although May has got some serious
She's cool.
honorable
She's
mentions.
Cool, yeah.
Like-
Again, those were the two that I liked that
Yes.
relationship better. That was like the holdovers almost, like the three weird people from different generations. Hugo didn't fit in that scenario. It almost seemed like. I'm sorry, you haven't seen the holdovers. Have you?
No, I don't.
Anyway, for those of you who've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. Okay.
But like I don't know, like May, like the scene, I think it's with Desdemona when she's doing her first like pretend
Seance?
yes, and May's in the back like with a knife just like drawing it across her neck like I'm
Yeah.
gonna get you.
That was fun.
Like I just thought it was funny. How about you?
I found them to be a little bit too. There wasn't enough to them, it seemed like. They were just there to say these things to Wallace, to push him forward.
Mm.
And they were a little bit too over the top at times.
I could believe that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I liked him.
Who was your
But-
favorite character?
I don't know. I liked the manager.
I kind of liked the manager too, especially with
Who's
his
Lucy?
t-shirts.
Yeah. I liked the
gosh.
manager. He was just a weird little guy.
I
Just
wonder if
eating
TJ Klune has like a
flowers.
demon child because all of his like demon characters are children. I'm just saying, it's just interesting.
It is.
And I didn't hate Hugo. I liked Hugo,
I didn't
honestly.
dislike
Hugo was
Hugo.
fine.
I just
Yeah.
didn't feel like he.
He was just a little too chill, a little too perfect. Even though they said that he had depression and anxiety,
Okay, but
it
that's
didn't really
not-
come through very well.
He also had very little growth or arc.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was he. If you're gonna be steady, man. Like
Yeah.
I also liked Cameron.
Yeah.
And
His
that
story
was
was
that
really
was
sad.
the one of the ones
Yeah.
that and you don't really get to know much of him, but those brief flashbacks, and I'll tell you why at the end. We talk about why we
Yeah.
like the ending or not. Cameron's story, Cameron and Nelson were the two stories that I connected with, and so or understood or felt or whatever it was, and so those were probably my two favorite. The least favorite was that Adam thing. What was that about?
Yeah.
I don't.
Alan.
I don't
Alan,
even remember
yeah.
his name. He was so annoying.
Yeah.
I don't feel like there was enough other than it brought the manager there. And it showed that Wallace had the capability of also being there. But see, Cameron was the one that showed that Wallace had that capability to me,
Mhm.
not Alan.
Yeah.
And Cameron had been appearing like because he sensed
Yeah.
that maybe. And so I don't understand what the point of that character was at all, other than to bring the manager. And I don't understand why you couldn't have used Cameron's character, which was a lot more compelling,
Mm-hmm.
to bring the manager and had the exact same ending. I get it. He was murdered. It was. I understand like what his character was doing, but I just to me that was a throw off. I don't understand
Yeah.
it.
I feel like if he's gonna do that, it should have been closer to the beginning, and I think that should have been, if you're gonna keep it in the story,
Yeah.
the marker for maybe I can change and not be such of a mean guy.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
I can sacrifice something about myself. Like I feel like that's where that opportunity
Yeah,
came
like
in.
Alan and Wallace could have gone like head to head in a way, and like
Mhm.
Alan clearly had like a rougher life.
Particularly if Wallace is being mean to Nelson and then suddenly has this switch of I need to protect Nelson, and
Yeah.
then maybe Alan goes for Nelson in some way, and that's what
Yeah.
is such a huge character shift for him. I think that would have been better
But
earlier in the book.
To me, it was
Yeah.
just a plot device. That's what
Yeah.
it felt like. And again, not only Cameron, but Nancy, and
Same.
even the what was the Esmeralda? What was her name?
Desdemona.
Desdemona. Sorry. In my mind, I read Esmeralda. I don't know why, but even her, like I thought, what was the point of this? But then there was a purpose.
So when she first appeared, I
really.
did not like. She was too like Disney villain for me.
Desdemona?
Yeah.
yeah, she was.
She was
she
too
was.
Disney villain.
But I have a perfect person to cast.
Yeah. I kind of
I'll
have
tell
it too.
Okay.
I
Oh,
have
if
an
it's the
idea
same.
too.
What if it's the same person? That would be fun. Anyways, but then she came back and she revealed that like she wanted to like when she wanted to stay with Nancy when Nancy was going to stay behind, like she clearly cared in some way.
Mhm.
But when she first appeared, like Disney villain, and then Harvey, the health inspector,
Oh,
Yeah,
what
he
was
so
that?
one-dimensional.
Unnecessary.
Yeah, definitely a Disney villain. Like you could just imagine him had like a sharp suit, holding
again-
a pencil, and
Just trying to hit
Yeah.
on
Again,
Hugo.
all of that. Harvey was right there with the Alan thing. It seemed like
Yeah.
all they invented these characters just to have the manager come to have that conversation
Yeah.
that he needed to have with Wallace. And I don't think you needed that.
I think you could have brought the manager in because Wallace was not moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
and that
you
could have
didn't
been
That'd be
part of
enough.
it.
crazy, you
Because
know?
they
Yeah.
said that 2 weeks was the longest anyone had been there,
Yeah.
and he had been there 4 months before the manager stepped in.
So
Yeah.
you could have easily have gotten there without it being so. I don't know. Yeah, Harvey too. The plot devices with that and the characters weren't compelling enough to make it worth.
So I don't mind the characters. The characters in themselves could be fun, and there's a way to incorporate them all
Mhm.
in the story.
Mhm.
I don't like the way they were incorporated.
Yeah,
Like, I just don't.
it's a little too absurd at times.
So like, and then
You're talking my score down. In case you're
sorry, no.
no.
This is
but
not
I'm-
my purpose.
No, I know, I
because
know.
so like,
But I agree with you though. I mean, that's the
Yeah.
thing. When you actually start talking about it, you're like, oof.
so I had a hard time with Nancy. The
Mhm.
part that I cried at
Mhm.
for me was just after Hugo kind of came clean with Nancy.
Mm.
And I don't know if I can fully figure out how to talk about how I have problems with how that scene laid out. I have problems with that it was in there, period. Like, I would have taken Nancy completely out, or I would have handled her completely
Mhm.
differently, because it's just,
Yeah.
I don't know. I need more prompting questions to get more information out about why I don't like it. I can't.
Well, would you say she was like your least favorite character, or just?
It wasn't that she was my least favorite character. It's, I think, my least favorite situation. Kind of. Anyway, okay, so kind of in there with Alan and a little bit with Cameron. They are very serious topics that I feel like were handled
Kind of offhand.
not seriously enough.
Yeah.
So, first of all, I say I would totally keep the Husk and Cameron situation.
Well, you have to, because that's I mean, that's the plot device that gets Wallace to stay. Yeah.
So, like, one of the things that kept, like, stuck with me with Cameron was just the idea that he, died by suicide and then still had to endure, and he had to endure in his pain. And
Yes.
that felt so real, and I get it. Nancy, with her daughter that had passed, was just so heartbreaking.
Mhm.
And I know that death is heartbreaking, but especially the loss of a child, like, I don't appreciate that. Like, he put in the book that the little girl was crying for her mom. Like, she was so distressed about everything that she was just crying for her mom. And her mom, on some cosmic level, heard her, and it came to her. And then there was still no resolution. There was resolution, I guess, a little bit for Nancy, in that she felt like it was okay, but there was no resolution for Leah.
Yeah.
And you let that woman sit there day after day after day after day. I mean, that's
Did not need the ruse with Desdemona at the end. He could have simply said, like, when Nancy came in, I have some information for you.
Well, I think that he did that just to bring her back because she was still so angry with him. But so I kind of get that part.
I kind of get it, but also, sorry, I cut you off.
No, you're fine. Keep going.
I just don't think it was necessary, and I think it was hurtful, because in the end, it's not like, I feel like he was trying to promise Nancy that she was going to see her daughter again, and that
she
there was.
doesn't- we don't
But
know
we
that.
don't know. The whole premise of this book is that you come to closure with your life before you go to the ferryman who helps you with that. And when you are ready to move on, you go through the door. And no one knows what comes next.
They did the same thing now I think about with Cameron.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, I waited this long to be with, with his lover or her, his partner or whatever. And it's like, but you're right. Technically, he doesn't know that. And
I mean, there were kind of hints of it.
Yeah, like there's like sounds and like a sense of peace as people are going through the door. But you don't actually know what comes next. And I feel like it would have been far more comforting to say, I saw your daughter. She was no longer in pain.
Yeah.
It was, she was able to share these lovely stories with us. And then she was ready for her next part of her journey, and she went. Which, I guess that last part is a little bit of a lie because of the previous Reaper. But, like,
Yeah.
I just did not like how it all went down. Like, they had that, like, staging with, like, I'm proving I'm a ghost. I'm gonna make the chalk hover. And I'm like, none of this is necessary.
No.
Because there was not a lot of plot, they had to create plot.
Maybe.
Maybe that was it.
Yeah.
I just been a
Well, the
little.
House in the Cerulean Sea didn't have a whole lot of plot.
It
and that
really-
did fine, but
I don't know. I still feel like there were a lot of really, like, beautiful little
yeah.
vignettes
Yeah.
along the way, and the vignettes here weren't that vignette-y.
I think that this is supposed to be like a vignette. Like,
Yeah.
each of the characters we're talking about is supposed to be like a little vignette.
But it didn't click as well.
I wanted it to,
I
though,
know.
because I like the writing. I like the author.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
a good writer. It's just, well, technically he's a good writer. But for this book, he just he wasn't very cohesive with everything for me. Like, it just kind of went on and on for some things, and Wallace just didn't. He was just kind of boring.
If the main character is not interesting,
Yeah.
it does throw off.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't.
And,
I mean,
and to me, the other characters weren't enough.
gotcha.
They weren't
To
strong
carry
enough.
it.
Yeah.
That makes sense, because
I
all they
feel
did
it.
was work in the tea house.
I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot of like moving chairs and making tea. I mean, it's just we're moving the chairs again. I'm like, okay, how many chairs are there? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just there wasn't enough. You're right.
Okay. Do you have a favorite moment or quote?
So I guess this is my time to talk about those two moments. I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah,
Okay.
Do it.
So the Cameron one for me, the idea that he was broken to the point that he died.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we can say suicide, whatever. He died, and then even in death, he didn't know how to handle it,
Mm-hmm.
and they just cast him aside.
Yes.
And that was Wallace's best moment, was the recognition when he got to see Cameron's life, the understanding that even the broken people can be okay. I mean,
There's hope for him.
there's hope for them, and the fact that someone, even though they were basically cast aside in life, then they were cast aside in death,
Mm-hmm.
and they felt like there was nowhere to go. And so that ending and him finally, I don't know, that one just hit for me. The broken people can be not necessarily repaired, but they can move on, and we don't need to give up on the broken people.
Yeah.
When Wallace took the hook out of his own chest
Oh,
and put it
that
in
was good.
Cameron's, because I think so much of what this book does really well is show that you need community.
Yeah,
Like, that is so crucial.
and it
is
relates back to,
community.
like, I just finished Perks Being Wildflower, but he made it.
Mhm.
And so will you. Someone needed to tell Cameron he was going to make it.
Mhm.
Whether it was in life, whether it was in death, whatever it is, he was going to make it. And no one ever, he had friends that tried to check on him. But if you're in that mode, sometimes it isn't enough. So that one, I don't know, that story just hit with me. And then Nelson,
Mhm.
I mean, and that's because I was very close with my grandparents.
Mhm.
And I always felt like they were the ones who, anytime I needed someone to step in, like Nelson would step in. And so when he realizes he now has someone else to be that support system for him, so now I can go, because he lost his parents. So Nelson stepped in. Totally, I mean, because that I lost it. So,
Yeah.
and it's just that just hit. I'm sorry, you were going to speak.
No, I'm sorry. I wasn't trying to.
No,
Uh,
no.
I really also liked Nelson. The fact that he pretended to be Hugo when they first met, I thought that was funny.
That cane. I liked the cane. Like, he just smacked
Yes.
people with it. I like it.
I did really like Nelson. The other moment that I thought was humorous, we already talked about how May in the back with her knives or whatever, just
Yeah,
like
that was funny.
just threatening people all the time. There's her, and then when Wallace was trying to figure out how to change clothes, and the very first thing he changes into is a bikini. I giggled.
There were some like funny, dirty comments and things that were I liked. Yeah, that was funny.
And then Nelson saying that the first time he did it, he became like a weird Easter bunny.
Oh yeah,
with
yeah.
like eggs full of cauliflower. Like, how random. So, and then I'm sure I do have quotes. I might have to do my quotes at the end because they're all kind of mixed together. What about you?
I don't really have anything that really stood out to me, honestly. There were like a few funny moments that I liked, but there was nothing that was really like, yeah.
You said scenes made you cry. Which ones?
Well, the Nancy
yeah.
and Leah, they're like, I guess when Hugo was telling her about Leah, and then it was either the Cameron, like when they saved Cameron, or when, and I teared up a little bit when Nelson was moving on.
Moving on.
Yeah.
That was the one.
Yeah.
See, it's weird. I guess because I don't have children. I mean, like the Nancy one was very sad, but that one, I did not connect with it. But it wasn't, of the three, it was my third. But I could see where with you, because you have three children, it hits differently.
And the weird thing is that, like, I understand reading it, like, why it's moving. Like, thinking about it, like, is too much.
Mhm.
And not even, I mean, the death of a child is just horribly tragic. Right. The idea that my child has died and is crying for me on the other side and I can't get to them, done. Like, done. I can't do it. I closed the book. I was like, well, I'm going to think about this for the next 24 hours. Thanks. My anxiety just went up. Thanks, TJ. We're on first name basis now, son. But yeah. Anyway, that was a lot. Sorry. I probably should have
No, you're good. You're good.
put a disclaimer on that.
We're tired and we're not okay.
Well, I did put a disclaimer at the beginning of the episode.
You did, but
so.
before I went on my, like, death of a child rant.
Yeah.
So.
Also, the doggy.
The dog was sweet.
I know, but when he took the doggy with him.
That was so okay. Are we going to talk about how we think the end should have gone?
Yes.
When is that coming up?
After the next question.
All right, let's do the
Okay.
next question and then okay.
Okay, what did you think of the romance between Wallace and Hugo?
Did not see it.
There was like no chemistry.
There was no chemistry. I don't mind that it was there.
No, that's fine. I think it's
fine.
great. Yeah.
I'm cool. Like this one I saw King's House in Cerulean Sea. For some reason I didn't see it coming. And it was like, oh, that totally makes sense. This one I'm like, okay, I can see this clearly from the beginning. Like this is
Right.
the goal.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but it doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
Like,
I can kind of see why Wallace would be attracted to Hugo,
yeah.
like would fall in love with Hugo, but I cannot see the
In the
reverse.
same way you fall in love with a therapist.
Yeah.
Like, but it's still not, I don't know. But yeah, I
Yeah.
also could not see.
It's like Wallace is boring.
That's funny.
So boring. What about you, Andrew?
What about me?
Do you think the romance?
Oh no, I think I said yeah.
Oh,
It
yeah.
did not. It was
Yeah.
not believable. And yeah, we saw it coming, but nothing like
Yeah.
other than they just started to feel. And I get that sometimes that's how it is.
Yeah.
You just spend a lot of time with people and you kind of go, dang, yeah, this is the person that I want to be a friend with or I want to have a romantic relationship. But I get it. But it just, yeah, you're right. Wallace is, yeah.
They just
Yeah.
sat on the back porch and talked about tea a lot.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I just can't.
Yeah.
Those are two very boring people that deserve each other if that's what really gets their motor going.
I almost would like to see the sequel where they're like chasing the husks. Like
Yeah,
that would actually be
that
more.
would be so
that would be
fun.
fun.
You know what would have been a more interesting book for me?
Hmm.
If we followed Hugo in his journey to becoming a ferryman.
Ooh, yes.
I think that would have
Mhm.
been good.
Mhm.
Maybe he'll do a prequel.
Yeah.
I'd read that. Are
So
we ready?
basically, what
We're
happened-
redoing the book again.
Basically, everything that happened outside of the novel was more interesting than what happened in the novel.
True.
Okay, are we ready for the
Yeah.
next question? What did you think of the ending? Did you expect Wallace to be resurrected?
I
You
kind
go
of expected
first.
Wallace to die,
Mm-hmm.
to be gone.
Mm-hmm.
And while that would have been sad, it almost would have been, I don't know if I believe him becoming a ferryman. And that they
Well, he
decide,
became a reaper.
whatever. I don't believe that either. I don't know. Again, I liked the Cameron finale and I liked the Nelson finale
Mm-hmm.
because again, I could see my grandparents being that way.
Yeah.
You know, I've done what I've done and look what I created. So it's okay. And so those really, but I mean, I don't know. I just, again, because Wallace and Hugo, they didn't quite click. I didn't feel the happiness at the end maybe that I should have. What about you, Kendall? You have strong opinions, I feel like.
Yeah, I didn't like the ending.
Okay.
Not because I don't know. Okay, so I'm not sure how it should have ended. I have a few different ideas
Mm-hmm.
brewing in there. But it's called Under the Whispering Door. This is a book where all they talk about all the time is how Hugo helps people move on. And you know what? He didn't help Wallace move on. I needed Wallace to go through the door at the end.
Yeah.
It would have felt more poignant. Their love story would have meant more.
He didn't help Alan. He didn't help Nelson.
Mm-mm.
Alan was forced through by the
Manager.
manager, and Nelson was his own. I mean, he almost was his ferryman,
Yeah.
you know, and so then he decided, okay, now he has this other person. I don't feel like Hugo was a catalyst in a lot of that. He was in a lot of ways, but not really.
So what I think with all of the extraneous characters that they had been putting throughout the book, I think they needed to become more significant, and that needed to become Hugo's support system so that all of the ghostly support system could all together go through the door at the end,
Yeah.
is how I feel like it probably should have ended. Now, I did read the back in the author's notes or whatever where he talked about like this wasn't really the TJ Klune wasn't really processing the death of a loved one, but it kind of was him dealing with it and playing in that space, and a little bit feels like wish fulfillment.
Yeah.
In that, oh, now at the end they get to be together and have this great love story and he's a human again and gets to relive and do it again. But were you not just going back and telling Nancy that her daughter needed to move on? What about Cameron?
Mhm.
What about Alan?
You know, you realize he's not a very good ferryman.
No, he's not. And they're like, oh, he's the but I don't know that
I
is
don't know
true.
because none of the characters in here
So-
really.
The other thing that I could see happening would be that Wallace goes through the door and he is not presented with what actually is on the other side. He like goes into like his mother's kitchen where there's like the candy cane baking or whatever, and it's his mother saying, actually, you can choose to move on at this time, or you have another option, and that is, I think he should have replaced the manager, because the manager was very dismissive of the idea of the husks. And so then I feel like Wallace should have become the new manager. And then in some ways he's still interacting and being with Hugo. So like that's the other one. I do like the idea of him moving on with Nelson and the dog, Apollo, more than that. But there are other like things in there. But yeah, I don't know.
It's just a lot for them to just have a relationship.
And it's just not, I don't know. And I'm like, what's the point of this book? This book is about moving on, and he didn't move on.
No. No,
Maybe that's the point. You don't ever move on.
Well, there you go. What did you think, Angelique?
I mean, so I expected him about halfway through. I was like, I expected him to be resurrected, but then my brain was like, no, that's too obvious, so he won't be. And then he was. I'm like, oh, that's kind of a letdown.
Yeah. So when they said 7 days, I felt like it was going to be 7 days back on Earth.
Yeah.
Because that would have been a lot more interesting than him just doing what he'd already done.
For
For 7 more days.
Yeah.
Like suddenly it became, okay, now I'm going to call my ex-wife, and now I'm going to deal with Nancy, and now we're going to do that. We're going to do all these other things for other people.
Because it says he sets about living a lifetime in 7 days. He didn't live a lifetime in 7
No,
days.
he
He didn't do
didn't.
hardly anything in 7 days.
Mm-mm.
Made some tea. Made some dang scones. Put down the chairs. I mean, like, I thought this is his chance to, okay, the manager says we don't normally do this, but go back for 7 days and apologize to all and he goes back and he apologizes to the woman he fired.
Like, you get
he
to
apologizes.
Live
Yeah.
your last
Naomi.
7 days again.
Yeah.
That
and
would have been
redo things so
interesting.
that your funeral, there are people there. You know, like that.
Oh my
What?
God, that's yes.
But
Let's do that story.
story-
Yeah, that would have been good.
But then they wouldn't have been able to do it in 22 pages like they did with this one.
It should have, all of it should have been earlier. Like the manager giving the 7 days should have been 150 pages earlier, and him getting a shot.
And
Yeah.
Hugo could have been like a guide through that, and they could have
Yes.
developed a relationship
Yes.
as Hugo saw his life and Wallace was shared his life with Hugo.
We just
kind
fixed
of
it. We
thing.
just wrote like a best-selling novel. Okay.
Yeah.
TJ Klune, you're a really good writer. I cannot do what you do, but please let us read your books first.
Before you publish them. Hit
We
us up.
can
And-
fix it.
James Patterson. We can't fix them, but we can kill them. We can bury them where no one finds them. That thing you said. Okay, we're not
Did
going to
you
read
see
it
the thing?
about James Patterson. Oh God, that was
I
too
feel like
funny.
I sent it. Did I not send it to you?
She sent it to us.
I know she sent it to us, but I
Oh.
feel like, did we have a conversation?
We had a
about it?
conversation
Okay,
about
yeah,
the
yeah,
book, but then I found something
Yes,
online.
it was very funny.
So funny.
Ugh.
People were like, "What are they talking about?" Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it. It's an inside thing.
It's an inside
Okay.
joke.
You
on
want to
this
know?
public
Come down to the
podcast.
podcast.
But like, don't because
Yeah, it's a really small room.
Yeah.
All right. So, final question is our usual question: who would you cast in the TV show or movie of
Go,
this book?
Andrew. go.
Okay. So once I got over my Paul Giamatti thing, Billy Eichner.
Billy.
Oh my
Eichner.
God, that's perfect. I love it. I hate it, but I love it.
Because he can be the annoying
Uh huh.
and he can be the grouchy.
Uh huh.
He's younger. He's not like overly attractive, but
He's
like
tall.
tall.
Uh huh.
And if you ever saw the movie Bros, it's kind of that he is the grumpy guy and then someone else breaks his exterior. Like that's kind of the idea.
Yeah.
So he's shown that he can have that softer side on film, and therefore I thought of Billy Eichner.
I love it. I'm on
That's
board.
good.
Okay, cool. And
Good.
then for May Aquafina.
That's who I thought of too.
Okay.
I had Stephanie. I can't say her
Shu.
last name. Shu.
Shoo.
I had Stephanie Shu.
So when the moments where she's softer and she's, I thought when you, because you mentioned, we talked about it, we cheated and talked about it. But I did see Stephanie Shu, but then there were times where she's like, man, and I literally heard Aquafina saying that. But I also saw Aquafina in a movie called The Farewell, which is about she goes to visit a grandmother who's dying, and so again, it's kind of like the Billy Eichner where she's a comedian, she's funny, but I've seen her be able to do the softer side. So then I thought, no, maybe she could pull it off.
Well, I'm also thinking of Stephanie Shu because of Marvelous Miss Maisel, where she plays May.
That's so true. And she can do uproarious funny.
And
If you
she
see
can-
Joyride,
She can do funny. She can do serious.
Mhm.
I like it.
Yeah, I do too.
Oh,
So good
I'm okay
choices.
with both of those.
Yeah, but good choices. I
Yeah.
like that. What about you? So you said Aquafina too.
Well, that's who I thought of.
For Nelson, I thought of Danny Glover.
Yes.
Again,
Ah.
funny, but has those dramatic chops and an underrated actor
Yeah, he's
that I
good.
adore. And then I don't know if you'll remember, his name's Alfred Enoch. He was in Harry Potter, and then he was in How to Get Away with
Yeah.
Murder.
I know who you're talking about.
I'll search it.
Very tall.
Very tall, good looking.
Yeah.
And hold on.
Oh, perfect.
For Hugo.
He's 1,000% perfect.
I know, that's what I thought. And then Kristen Chenoweth for
Same.
Yeah, that's who I thought.
We should have done the 1, 2, 3 moment like we did with Ben.
I don't know if that was so organic. I don't know if but Kristen Chenoweth, because she could play up the camp,
Yeah.
but she pulls it off well.
Mhm.
Yes.
And so
She'll
she
add some
could,
substance.
she
to
can
that
add some
character.
substance to it, yeah, and like the whole running out the door and all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
Like I mean, so those were the characters that I cast. I did not cast Alan because I didn't care.
Yeah.
Cameron, it really could be any. I mean,
Yeah.
someone
Any good actor.
any good a good solid younger actor, and then I'm trying to think Harvey. I don't care. I mean, I just didn't care enough to even think about it.
No.
So those are the ones that I thought of. I know, actually, normally I'm like, I don't know, that guy from so-and-so. But I actually, so give TJ Klune credit.
Yeah.
I was able to see, again, his descriptiveness. He's such a good writer that I was able to see these people in that part.
Mhm.
And then I started picturing them in that part as I was reading it. So he did enough of that to make it work, even if we didn't particularly like all the characters.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't have a very good cast. I was struggling because at first Hugo was Taye Diggs, even though he's a little old. But yours makes way more sense.
I do love Taye Diggs, though.
I do. Well, because to me, Hugo is so grounded and still and like
Yeah, it is, yeah.
calm that I needed that kind of presence. And then because at first I was like, well, Donald Glover, but then I was like, he's too weird and quirky.
Yeah.
And so then I was like, nope.
To be fair, I don't know about the acting of this guy. He just looks like Hugo to me.
He does look like Hugo.
And that's what
I'm
I
gonna
thought
go
of
with
him.
him. And then Kristen Chenoweth, and
Oh,
we had
yeah,
already
yeah.
discussed.
What about you? Who'd
Okay,
you
so
think?
this is weird. So since I didn't really connect with any of the characters, I just came up with some random people. For some reason, I thought of Lee Pace for Wallace because
Ooh, actually, that'd
at
be
some
good.
point I thought of like Pushing Daisy.
Yeah.
I love pushing
And
daisies.
then it would be a Lee Pace, Kristen Chenoweth
Kristen
reunion.
Chenoweth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, he's another one that does he does the serious and the comedy balance
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
That would be a good one. Yeah, yeah. And both are I mean, they would fit the.
For some
Yeah.
reason, I don't know that they would have great chemistry, but I thought of like William Jackson Harper.
Oh,
For
he
Hugo.
is perfect, especially with the anxiety and the depression.
Yeah, and he was
Yeah.
really good in like his last
Oh.
episode in The Good Place when
Oh
he
my
was explaining
God.
the wave.
But he was also in Barry Jenkins'
It kills
Underground
me.
Railroad, and it was a very serious role. So he can again
Yeah.
all these characters
got the
require
range.
that balance. And yeah,
Mhm.
he'd be good. That'd be good.
Okay, I like yours too.
Yeah, I like that one. And that one I actually know the acting. It wasn't just a look thing.
Uh-huh.
So this is weird. I don't know if this actor is even still alive. But for Nelson, I thought, have y'all ever seen Sports Night? It was a sitcom.
Yeah, I love Sports Night.
Aaron Sorkin.
Yeah.
Yeah, the guy who played like the God, what
Like
was
in-
his name? He was like the big boss of the studio that they worked at.
Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about, but you
Yeah.
know how it's like it's not coming to me, so I'm looking it up.
Yeah, I think he
Great
would
movie,
make
and
a
I
good-
have it on DVD. We should borrow. You would like it. Oh, Robert Guillaume.
Yeah,
He is
Let
no
me
longer
see him.
with us.
Yeah,
He was Benson.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he would be. He wasn't,
Yeah.
and he could do the serious. He could do the funny. He was a great actor. He did die in 2017. So
Yeah. But I thought of
Um,
him immediately when
yeah, I like that. I
Yeah.
really like that. Oh, it's kind of like Ed Asner.
yeah.
Remember? And then we thought he was going to die on the bench. I was like, well, that'll be accurate.
I really thought he was.
So if we could get somebody with the energy of what's his name again?
Danny Glover. Oh,
No.
Robert Guillaume.
Yeah, of him.
Guillaume, I think
that
that's how
would
you
be-
pronounce it. The other one I thought of was Billy D. Williams. Because I know everyone thinks of him as Lando Calrissian, but he did do other things. But he's another one. He does funny very well. And Nelson was very funny. But
Nelson was
I
funny.
love Danny Glover just personally.
Yeah, I love Danny Glover.
I think Danny Glover.
He
is
shot
perfect.
a movie in Belmont.
Yes, he did.
Really?
Yeah,
a Hallmark movie.
Especially, I'm thinking about Danny Glover in Jumanji 2, which, by the way, the Jumanji movies are actually pretty good. They're fun. He did a great job.
Yeah, no, he's just, again, he's one of those, he can do Angels in the Outfield where he's grumpy, but the kid cracks his exterior or whatever, he can do color purple. He can do, I mean, this is
He
a
was
man.
really good in Predator too.
Oh my God. What is with you in these movies? Anaconda.
I love the Predator movies.
It's okay.
Did you like Prey?
Yeah.
Okay. Does that one actually people really like?
You sound like you're gonna be angry with me if I said no.
Well, no, it's just the one that I actually liked. So
It was good.
it was good. Okay.
I didn't
But
like
anyway,
any of
Robert
them.
Guillaume. Yeah, did y'all ever see any of the no, you've been real too young. Benson, you ever see any of the reruns of Benson? It was.
I mean, I know what
sitcom.
you're talking about.
Yeah,
but
he was really, really good. It was a good show. I think he won an Emmy for it at one point. So
Okay. Any final thoughts on the book?
I mean, I've got my notes this
Let's
time.
do
I
it.
don't
Let's do it.
actually know what's on here. Let's find out because it's kind of it's too long. All right. I like that it had the notice for the readers
Mhm.
before you start.
yes,
This guy has a sensitivity to smell, so he sends a work memo. Dislike. Okay, I must have been talking about Wallace and like
Bleach.
why he was dislikable.
Mhm.
Okay, but that one, I totally understood that one.
That's funny.
Not the point that I would send a memo, but
So, like, yeah, why would you lead with a character that says warmth leads to laziness when
Mhm.
one was cold, one kept moving? Okay, I get it. We're supposed to dislike you. I thought it was going to be a retelling of A Christmas Carol. I thought he was going to go back and, like,
It had
live
those
his
vibes.
life.
well, that's kind of what we pitched.
Yeah. And it would have been good. It would have been very Dickensian, and it would have been good. There's a reason it lives.
Dickensian. Wow, you're so smart, Kendall.
I just have to throw out those words every now and again. Hugo mentions the 5 stages of grief in Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. She is real, and so is the book. She's the
Yeah.
one who came up with the 5 stages of grief. And actually, the gentleman, David Kessler, who helped her write the original 5 stages of grief, he lost... Okay, she has passed on. He lost his son, and he has come out with a 6th book. Not 6th book, sorry. A new book. It came out during the pandemic.
Mhm.
And it talks about a sixth stage of grief and its meaning. And I
Oh.
think that's part of what
Ooh, yeah.
anyway, the book is called Finding Meaning. I highly recommend to those who might be struggling. Favorite scenes we discussed, bikini. Least favorite, I'm gonna add Nelson karate swiping the Alan out from under his feet. I thought that was too much.
I mean, yeah, the man was on a cane. It wasn't like and all of a sudden he's like Kung
Well,
Fu
he
Panda.
chose to be on a cane. He chose to appear like that.
Oh,
Yes.
that's
That's one of the
true.
points,
That's
so.
true.
I do
Still.
like the moment though where he decides that he's gonna move on and he wants to be in the body like where he felt good, like
Yeah.
he was gonna go and see his wife again.
Oh.
Man, beautiful. I did think the book on the whole was a little bit preachy. Like appreciate what you have when you have it, and I'm like, you're really judging the human experience here by saying someone didn't live a good life because it wasn't appreciated in the moment. Like
Yeah.
that's
Well, and
that's
that contradicts
harsh.
like a Cameron who did appreciate what he had to the point that the loss of that
It was
ended him.
Yeah.
I mean, but he loved what he had. It wasn't that he didn't appreciate his time. It was that it was taken away from him and he didn't know how to deal with it.
what is it that they say? Like grief is just love that has no more place to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
So that kind of contradicts to me that concept, that whole main that whole character that was the central to a lot of things.
And then I do have 2 quotes here when you asked about quotes that I liked. On page 202, Wallace whispered, "It's easy to let yourself spiral and fall. It is," Nelson agrees. "But it's what you do to pull yourself out of it that matters most." A little
I think
preachy,
I-
but then
Mhm.
also
I think
so good.
that was one on
Like-
mine that I took a photo
Yeah,
of because
like-
it was good.
I mean, life's going to happen. It's how you handle life. And if you handle it poorly, so what? You try again.
That was my point with Cameron. He didn't handle death well. He handled it poorly. So then they just cast him
Just-
aside.
yes.
Yeah.
And that was such a problem for me because we need to do better in life and in death
Yes.
of how we handle those things. So
And then on page 204, you have to get through the bitter to find it, though. They're talking about the really bitter tea that tastes like honey at the end.
Mhm.
Wallace sighs. One of those things where you say one thing but mean something else? Hugo smiled. Or maybe it's just tea. And you know what? Maybe it is just tea. Maybe we all need to relax a little bit. Not
Yeah.
everything has to be a big deal. Okay. I have a plot question.
Okay.
okay.
It is said that when you break the hook, you just start to float away.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Cameron's hook broke.
Why didn't he float away?
Why didn't he float away?
Because he ran so. I guess if you're still connected I guess when he ran so far,
He's still
it severed it.
so connected to his earthly life, maybe.
Maybe, because I have this idea that there's just a bunch of depressed people floating in space, just
I've
chipping
seen
away.
that movie.
So
Maybe he didn't take it out himself, though. He just ran. Maybe there's something still there, sort of, keeping him tethered. But yeah, he didn't explain his world building very well.
yeah, no, it just doesn't make sense. Like,
Because why would Wallace have to unhook himself if
Mhm.
he's still on Earth? Because there's still if there is still some hook
Yeah.
connection, wouldn't it have been Hugo's able to reestablish that hook?
yeah, like why didn't if
And then they
Hugo
just-
can pull a hook out of him, and why didn't he give Wallace a new hook?
And then like the
Yeah.
Lead him
last
around
day,
on a
Wallace is like
leash.
being held down by the cane, just floating around.
Like,
Like, it was
just-
weird.
Like he's a balloon. I didn't like that aspect. I feel like Hugo should have given him a new hook. You know what? Scratch that. I feel like when what's his name? Wallace tried to take his own hook and put it in Cameron. I think that's when Hugo needed to step up and give him a new hook.
Yeah.
Give Cameron a new hook.
Yeah, I'm telling you, Hugo was not a good ferryman.
Hugo had so many. I think Wallace might have been necessary to put Hugo in situations to allow himself to step up, but Hugo never did. Like part of like what your grandpa can't move on because you can't create a safe enough space for yourself. Like, come on, guy. Establish your own friends and your own earthly connections
And
so
if
that
he was the
your
best-
spiritual ones can go on.
Yeah.
If he was the best, what were the others
God,
like?
it's the B-list team there. God.
Um,
You're just like in a toilet
To
or
be
something.
fair to Hugo, he only knew what the manager told him.
I
So
guess
he's
that is
probably,
true.
and he didn't want, and he was so like, I guess maybe traumatized isn't the right word, from the former Reaper doing what he did.
That is true.
that he was probably maybe scared to like
Move forward.
push too hard.
Yeah.
on
Don't
others.
defend him. He sucked at his job. Okay, I'm just kidding. I'm messing.
How dare you.
Okay, two more random little thoughts. One, the dog.
It's Cheaty you're talking about.
If it were Cheaty, it'd be a different story. I need to
Oh my
rewatch
God,
The Good
Cheaty.
Place.
I love that.
I love that show so much.
I love Cheaty so much.
I know,
Oh
I
my
know.
God. Okay, so the ghost dog pees everywhere. He pees on the Harvey guy.
Yeah.
No one's cleaning up that ghost pee. Does it just vanish? Is it
I
the
don't-
spiritual
yeah.
plane just filled with dog urine?
Well, at least the tea house is.
I bet that's what makes the tea so
Somebody who's
special.
sensitive.
That's why the
when-
dang health inspector's there all the time.
He's
He
like
can
sensitive
sense
to
it.
smell,
He
to
can-
psychic smells. And he's like, "There's something wrong with this place. It smells like dog pee."
He can sense it.
I can't find it, but I'm going to sniff it out.
That's the best. And then I have one more quote that I thought was funny. Don't let him stick his thermometer in your baked goods.
That was funny. That was funny. Again, there were little moments that really worked. It just wasn't as cohesive as the previous.
So
Yeah.
I don't.
I
wanna-
do also. I read reviews of the Lives of Poets, which is like his third one,
Mm-hmm.
and they dramatically dropped.
Is
from,
it Lives of Poets or Lives of Puppets?
Lives of Puppets? That's it. But
Maybe that's my head dropped.
but it dramatically like House and Cerulean Sea was like 4.8.
Yeah.
This was like a 4.12, and this was like a 3 point something.
Yeah.
So I'm worried that we're getting diminishing returns, which scares me for the sequel because I would love to go back to that world
Yeah.
and visit all those characters, but I'm like, please don't screw it up.
Yeah.
I asked Angelique this question, but in the beginning, when Wallace is looking around the house, he's looking at pictures of things around, and one of the pictures describes a house in the Cerulean Sea, and it made me wonder: are all the other pictures like the settings of his other books
Maybe he's kind of like they're not sequels, but they're all kind of.
in the same universe?
Connected.
So
Yeah.
I noticed that he used the word cerulean a lot.
Yeah, he likes it.
It's kind of like when I was in not grad school, when I was in undergrad, and everything was a microcosm. It's like stop. Furthermore, Angelique. Furthermore, and then I started using additionally. Stop using additionally.
That's okay.
It's all good.
Okay. Do you have any thoughts?
No. I still. Again, the moments that hit, and it was worth getting to those moments.
Yeah.
And I think there are a lot of gems in here. And if you are struggling, something like this, it's maybe not. No, I don't know.
I think if you are struggling, you
Depends
should
on where you are.
You should get help.
find some. Yes.
I say, okay, so the idea that you talk about finding that community and
Mhm.
finding those people, whatever it is, whether it's work, whether it's friends, whether it's family, whether it's a service organization, whether it's whatever it is, the point is that when you find those people, you can handle things better. And
Yeah.
and so and get help.
Yeah.
If you need help, get help. I mean,
Yeah.
that stigma needs to go away. I think that's
Yeah.
the thing about Cameron. His friends were trying to help him, and it was like, you are strong, but you never know when you're not going to be strong enough. So lean on those friends. So that if that's the message that comes out of it, then it is worth a read.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the book. Overall, it was a 4-star book.
I didn't hate it.
That's an ringing endorsement from Angelique
It's
Roberts.
a pretty good one considering. I mean,
Yeah.
Okay, there was one thing.
Oh yeah, let's go.
So it's just a really, really petty thing. The fact that Hugo's tea house didn't have Wi-Fi, it bugged me.
It felt very Gilmore Girls with the no
it
cell phones
did.
thing.
It did.
Yeah.
Remember what
Like
was
he's
that?
losing so much business from people who just want to work in a coffee shop
I
or a
know,
tea house.
I know.
It's
Just
just
be
it's
quirky.
preachy.
Yeah.
It's preachy. Why is Wi-Fi a bad thing? Why are we moralizing that?
Yeah.
to talk to people.
What if-
Okay.
I don't
What
want to talk to strangers in a tea house.
I don't either.
It's weird. I don't want to
Sorry
talk to
to
people
say-
I know.
I just remember
sometimes.
that whatever. I think it was that same Christmas book as Ed Astor. Where like basically we have rewritten Gilmore Girls. Like Gilmore Girls comes up way too often in a lot of these books. That is the power of that show, and that is my final thought, which has nothing to do with anything we talked about leading up to it. Also, see Sports Night. Sports Night's a fantastic show if
And
you love Aaron
read
Sorkin.
Finding Meaning by David Kessler.
Yes.
If you're struggling with grief.
See, we are so filled with knowledge. All right, Antrix, don't cut
Watch
me off.
Predator 2 if you like Danny Glover.
And don't put your thermometer
Okay.
in any baked goods.
Watch like 15 other movies if you like Danny Glover. You know what? Do your ending. We're done. We're done here.
Okay. So, all going well, this episode will be posted before the end of March, which means I can promote the annual Friends of the Gaston County Public Library book sale beginning Monday, April 1st, and ending Saturday, April 6th, and being held at the main library branch on 1555 East Garrison Boulevard. The library's Friends organization will be selling donated books, DVDs, and more. Book sale proceeds are dedicated to providing equipment, furnishings, resources, and programming for our library patrons. So come to the book sale and support your library. For more information on book sale hours and becoming a member of the Friends of the Gaston County Public Library, please visit www.friendsofgcpl.org. I'll put that link in the episode description. All right, that's it for this episode of We're Booked Up. Under the Whispering Door is available both in the library and online at the NC Digital Library, through the Libby app, and through Hoopla. Let us know what you think of the book and what you think of what we think of the book. Just leave a comment on the Off the Shelf blog at gastonlibrary.blogspot.com or at gastonspeaks.podbean.com. Next month's book will be A Wizard of Earthsea by Ursula K. Le Guin. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, guys.